and it let out this blood-curdling, guttural scream.
On the side of the road, he sees a deer carcass and something eating on it, which he thought was a bear. And as the lights hit it, it stood up. And, like, this gives me chills talking about it. He said it stood up and it had the face of a man.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I'm your host, Bryan Sawyer, coming at you. Today is episode 41. Now, there's a guy we talked to a few episodes ago. I don't have it with me, but I'm like, man, I got to get this guy back because he is so knowledgeable. He's been doing it longer than I have been doing it, and I need him to teach me a few things. And but just a great man in itself. He heads up the Michigan Aboriginal Project, and he has some of the most amazing audio of Sasquatch and paranormal beings that I have ever heard. And our first episode, I just felt like we didn't get dug in enough. And so I think I'm going to have a long-standing relationship with this guy. He is such good people. So with all that said, we're going to bring in James Lady from the Michigan Aboriginal Project. Hey,
Thank
James.
you, Brian. How'd you, sir? Hello to your audience as well.
Cool, man.
Quite an intro. I'm not sure I'm so deserving, but the project has been a very interesting and otherworldly one that oftentimes.
Well, you've been such a gentleman with me. And then on top of that, as I get to know Audrey Gallus better, Val Savala, and they talk about you in such high regards, I can't help but, check you out. And then you were one of the first people who contacted me. And back then I was still kind of scrambling to really figure out what direction we were going with this. And now, man, we are off to the races. We're on a 5-year program just to learn everything we can about this whole paranormal Bigfoot world and interview eyewitnesses and knowledgeable people. And just bring this platform to the general public because still in a lot of places, this is still considered a joke, I guess you could say.
In certain social circles, no doubt.
Yes. Well put.
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah, yeah. And which and I think about that stuff, and I'm like, people are crazy. I don't know, especially in the Christian world. I mean, you get a lot of pushback when you talk about Bigfoot. But if we were so knowledgeable and imbued with all the knowledge and wisdom of the Bible, even the apocryphal texts, as we were young, I would say that this wouldn't be such a big surprise, and we'd probably be well aware of it. And just like the Second Temple scribes, they had a supernatural worldview, and they knew it to be true. And we've lost that supernatural worldview, which I think is a little sad. So I feel like I've done a little things backwards. I just wanted to see Bigfoot, right? So I went out and let my curious mind and go tinker in the woods. And what I've learned is really what I would have learned if biblical teachings were a part of my younger education as a young man. I think that applies to everybody. We're not told about this phenomenon, not in the classrooms, not in the social settings, and seldom in the churches.
What's so wonderful about what you just said is you just kind of in a nutshell said what happened to me. I've been a Christian my whole life. My grandfather was a Baptist minister. I've always had that knowledge, that teaching in my background. But I'm about 20 years into working for Ford Motor Company, and I'm literally sitting on the line, and I'm going like this, James. Next.
Time after time, yeah, that'll kill your
Next,
spirit if you don't have another intellectual and physical, journey, or
exactly. So I'm sitting there and I talk to God and I'm like, hey, God, I'm never going to stop being a Christian, but I have to approach you with something. I'm really bored with this whole Christianity thing. I'm never going to leave you. You've always been there for me, but I'm really bored. And James, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but then he said, look up Bigfoot.
no
I'm not
kidding.
kidding you. In my
I
spirit,
love it.
now people
I
out
love it.
there, yeah, people out there are like, "Would you hear an audible voice?" No, it's a spiritual thing. It's like a download, so it's not an audible voice, but it's a spirit saying, "Hey, look up Bigfoot." So that's when I started. And then I started looking up YouTube videos about Bigfoot. And then there's, of course, God sends people. There's a guy at work, and he walked up on me. He was selling honey and everything. He made honey at his place. And he's like, "Oh, you like Bigfoot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. It's just entertainment." And he's like, "They're real." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. I've heard them and I've partially seen one of them."
Awesome.
And then, yeah, it just ignited it. So now, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years later, after watching YouTube's, now, mind you, I didn't get deep into this till 2, 3 years ago. And then I had my fairy encounter. I had what
Yeah.
I called a deal with the devil back in my early 20s in my living room. And then, of course, a dark entity followed me from one place, a cloaked figure dove on me. I physically felt it. And then he followed me from an old house in Port Huron to a new construction house in Kimball, Michigan, comes in my room and I feel that, punches me in the chest.
Dude, that's
Then
terrifying.
Yes, then one of my sons starts drawing pictures of the same thing. So now this thing is showing itself to my sons. So I do the Christian thing. I anoint all the doorways and everything with olive oil. I pray in the name of
Whoa.
Jesus. I go through every window and doorway, inside and outside, and I anoint it. And in the name of Jesus, I cast this thing out. And I haven't heard from it since.
Good.
Okay.
Good. There's nothing like
Now,
invoking that name, his name.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about you. I'm going to be prying you. We're going to talk about today the basics of using audio equipment. I don't even know how to use it. I bought it 6 months ago and I haven't used it yet because I haven't had time to sit down. Okay, do I do this? I don't do that. So we're going to get into that as well. But let's hit you. I need to shut up. You're my guest. What's on your heart and mind today?
Heart mind. It's always Bigfoot lately. Having delved as deeply as I have, I continue my decades-long state of shock. Not always from this experience, but living life ahead of that. Prior marriage, divorce, all that kind of madness, where I was, found myself walking that dark valley, right? And through up building up to that, God had reached out to me, and I began this art phase, and I believe it was. And this is, I'm formerly atheist, so I needed this in my life really to save my life. Quite honestly, I was in a very, very deep depression. I was an empty shell of a former man, right? So I needed that, and it was God's way of, through my art, my photographic art, of letting me know that He was there, even before I appreciated and acknowledged His existence. So you live a little life, and I believe that photographic journey, God given, was a gift, and it was meant to be. And I think that this journey, as odd as it is also part of a calling, much like the art journey. And it's further proof to me of a higher order, an established supernatural realm. I mean, I've witnessed things supernatural. I've recorded things otherworldly. And you have to believe this unseen realm of the apocryphal texts is very real. It's alive, and the Old Testament is every bit as pertinent today as it ever has been, maybe even more so, given the times that we're in. And you have to, I mean, you can go any number of tangents on that subject. because it gets weird, folks. Did you hear the? I think you shared perhaps on Bigfoots of Michigan on Facebook my publication about Barb Shoup's cloaking subject, and then I wondered if that subject had a voice, what would it sound like, and I explore a voice that I had recorded during a shoot with Small Town Monsters, and this voice was recorded around 1:30 in the afternoon. So it's the middle of the day. It was a beautiful day, and I explore that footage of something that we never saw. So, are they part of an unseen realm? Do they have a particular ability to cloak? What is the truth about these beings? They truly have a language of their own, and it's very esoteric. If you listen to Dr. Michael Heiser on his series on angels, he talks about their language. Even Dr. Jordan Peterson, prayers for people who know him and care about him. He's not in a good way right now. So Dr. Peterson needs our prayers for healing. Anyway, the Bible's real. I mean, you're looking at a former atheist. And I hope I don't lose anybody on this, because it's so important to realize that ancient text, as distilled and minimized as Western culture has enabled it to be, through whatever mechanisms, the religious structures and political realities within those structures, it seems, the Bible, I think, has been watered down, and we're not taught about the supernatural, truly supernatural. We're expected to believe in the resurrection, and I do, and demon cast, legions of demons, or Jesus cast legions of demons in the pigs and killed them. All of that stuff is real. There's no reason to doubt it, because the very existence of these beings, which the body of my library of audio, I think, underscores the fact that this is a real supernatural phenomenon, and there are things that coexist here on Earth that we are not a part of yet, perhaps.
All right. I
Gentlemen,
got to ask you. So we're going to hit you with a couple of hard, simple, but hard questions,
bring
because
it.
you probably won't have the answer. But I got to hit you with this. I need
Sure.
some knowledge. Um, Number one, this sounds like a very simple question, but it's a very deep um, spider web question. And this question is are there some good and some bad Sasquatch?
Oh, I would have to. Yes, of course there are. And we've heard. I was just thinking about him today. Casey Hathaway, that young 2.5, 3.5 year old kid down in the Carolinas. It was, I think, maybe late winter. It was like freezing rain. He was gone for like 2 nights. That a big bear had taken care of him. So clearly, these beings have a conscience. One took a liking to him. May have even been responsible for his disappearance. Don't know. So you can apply a nefarious, motivation to that or not. I don't know. But the creature did take care of him. He would have been toast. You and I would have been toast out there, with dressed as he was, and we could not have survived out there for a couple nights. So
Fantastic.
yeah, and there are other stories. Time and again, you hear of these beings helping people. You also hear of people being terrified, and I've been in that camp. But that's more of an internal thing, because we're and all of a sudden facing something that's just out of our frame of reference for an entire lifetime, and then boom, something happens that shakes your worldview up in an instant, and you don't know how to process it. I've had enough experiences with these beings that I'm willing to go back in the woods. Not always comfortable going back in the woods, knowing that they've never harmed me in the past. They watch. They're very curious, and I think everybody would agree on that. which kind of fits the job description of the Watchers. The biblical, the apocryphal, ancient texts speak of the First Enoch is what I'm referring to.
Sure,
The Watchers. That was just a couple of 6,000 years ago when the Old Testament was set to paper. Plus, I'm not a biblical scholar by any means, but it was a long, long time ago, and they speak of these beings. And that's not a long time, 6,000, 12,000 years. It's not a long time. Who would expect these beings to disappear? I don't. I haven't. It's a phenomenon that once I would rationally deny, but I cannot rationally deny it any longer, especially after the multiple experiences I've had, the encounters, and especially the audio that I've been able to get in specific places. So the audio project is successful because I go back to the same places where I initially thought, and I have confirmed, that these beings commune. So they're a social creation. They do commune, and they sometimes speak in their multitudes in a very civil discourse, in a very civilized way. And I've got recordings of them doing that, chanting, sounding like Benedictine monks. It's beautiful. They were chanting, and tell me that's not a form of worship, but worship to whom? We do not know, because there are fallen angels, and there are those that have free will, just like us. And as you know, they were cast into the night by God's decree for their disobedience and into the darkness. We could be dealing with those. I don't know. I am increasingly of the belief that they are a supernatural creation. At times they are corporeally manifest as we witness them. Some look like devils, some look like human beings. I've recorded within the same audio things that sound like angels, and others that sound demonic, others that sound like little pixies. It's mind-blowing. And you can hear me in that audio footage. It's 10 minutes that I have published, entitled "In Their Midst," and there are two different versions. One's a little overmodulated just because it further brings things out in the background, and it may mute things in the foreground. But two versions I've published, and you can judge for yourself what the nature of these beings are. I don't know. And I never saw a thing. So the unseen realm conversation, it's added fuel to that fire.
All right. So now I got to ask you a second question, and all your learned experience. And this includes something that just happened to me right around 5 o'clock. Okay. 5 o'clock today.
Today.
It is not the first episode or first encounter I've had here at my home. My question to you is: I've heard stories, and I'm sorry, but I got to be honest, I've witnessed it myself. Do you have knowledge of these things following you home, so to speak? Following you home.
I do not have any direct evidence or experience affirming that narrative. I've not had that experience. I don't doubt it. I do know that I live pretty close to Detroit. I got a lot of brick and mortar around me, and I don't know if that's the thing, but if they are truly spirit and somehow physically, corporeally manifest in this realm, I don't know. I haven't had that experience. Can I imagine them showing up at the back door someday or looking in the window? Perhaps. Yeah, because we have some greenways from Canada to Pesh Island. Where, I live close to the mouth of the Detroit River, and I actually spoke to a neighbor about 4 or 5 months ago. She said she saw something that looked like a cryptid canine creature on our street just a block down. Don't know what that's all about, and but I don't doubt it. I think there's so much to this world we just do not know. Coming in off the river once into a canal, I saw something walking. It looked like an upright walking thing in the water, and it was, little, but it was walking. And my buddy said it was a beaver, and there are beaver around, but I'm telling you, beavers don't walk on two legs approaching the shoreline. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life that I do not have a satisfactory explanation for, because I don't think it was a beaver.
Wow.
Not the way the hair looked, not anything. And that's just a quarter-mile swim, half-mile swim over to Pesh Island. So these beans may be. Well, I know they're in our suburbs. I've recorded things in Southfield, Ann Arbor. You don't have to go, to the extreme depths of the woods to find these locations where they commune. You just got to look for the physical artifacts. And I haven't seen any by the river, but I've seen some other phenomenon down there that makes you
Awesome.
wonder.
Yeah, I had a growl today, and I got up. It was literally in my right ear behind me. I got up and I walked the perimeter of my property and looked for any kind of animal that could have made that growl, and there was nothing to be found.
Well,
So
yeah,
now they,
it's disturbing. I've never doubted anyone's, you know, tales of this phenomenon. And you're a lot closer to, the country than I am. I mean, you're in
oh
it.
yeah, I'm in a
Yeah.
town surrounded by country. Well, we know they've been here before, they've been outright banging on the campers. We asked them to stop. They
Mhm.
stopped that.
Good.
And I said, don't get on the roof. This is an old house. Don't bang on the wood shingles. It'll fall apart. And you know what happened after that, James? That same kind of growl happened at my window. We had our window open. I was just about to
Mm.
fall asleep and I heard it. And then I said, I hear you. And it did it again and then moved away. And so then I had the mind speak. So that's a whole nother story. You'll have to interview me about that. And then the growl is the latest thing. It just blew my mind. It blew my mind because when
Yeah.
you hear something that's right there and you get up and you make yourself look where that growl could have came from, any possibility, and you find nothing, that is a crazy experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's happened to me, but I keep a very level head about it. We're gaining more understanding about all this. You have to not
Yeah.
let it drive you crazy.
And
Yeah,
think about the mind speak thing. I mean, if they do have an ability to cloak, they can be right there
hmm
and speak. I mean, just crazy. And there was I think it was Alaska Killer Bigfoot or something of that genre, that flavor. They had a guy out in the woods, and his freak looked totally legitimate and genuine to me. But he's like, it just whispered in my ear, and he was freaking out.
Oh yeah, I just came from Alpena as we talked backstage before we came on 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago or 2 weekends ago. So really just over a week ago, I was in Alpena for a couple of days, and the eyewitness there, I'll tell you, Chad Skolton, he has seen one 4 or 5 times. He's sitting in his deer blind, and this huge thing comes moving through. It's kind of like a jellyfish, and it shimmers but kind of moves through his property. And
Oh
what's
my
so
God.
and then when I'm there that night, I got banging on my cabin. And what's interesting is prior to this guy, Chad Skolton, moving to this cabin, it was vacant for 10, 12 years. And so I think the Bigfoot had used it as a throughway to the lake, to come through every night at the lake or whatever time they
Yeah.
wanted during the day. And he said when they first moved in, they heard growls outside their cabin. They didn't know what was going on, but now things have settled down and you can find the tree structures. And that's what this episode's all about, is his encounters. And in the perimeter around his backyard are these woven tree structures like deer blind type things where I just said, hey, Chad, I don't know everything, but it looks like they're making a perimeter around your backyard and your property to where they can watch you and kind of go unnoticed whenever they want.
Hmm. Well, it makes you wonder about their nature, right? If they are the watchers, they kind of have free realm over
Yeah.
the earth, right?
Yep. Yep.
You got to
Without a
wonder about
doubt.
70 Nations, right? Psalm 82, and there are some other references
Oh yeah,
about.
you're talking about the Tower of Babel and all that
Yeah,
lineage?
it's all related. But the 70 Nations, I've heard from pastors saying that no, they're human kings. That were given. Oh shucks.
Oh, the
Uh,
Sumerian text, the list of kings, or I'm trying to think.
well, no. Darn it. End of the day, and my brain is soft. But the provinces and principalities, right?
Oh, right, right.
There were 70. Um,
Okay.
and these were given to the sons of God, right? The divine council, the cosmic, council that depending on what era you're talking about. But I'm thinking that some of these beings, I don't believe all of them are sons of God, if you will. I think some of them very well could be, and I think they're all part of the same realm. God has his supportive angels
Mm-hmm.
as the sons of God. I was reading today. There's another, the Elohim. It can be plural and it can be
Yes.
singular. When it's singular, we're talking about the one most high. And then he has his supportive culture. But, they have families. They can die like mortals. God said so in the text, right? So um, they must procreate. There must be, young ones. I've recorded young voices.
I
I've seen a young one right outside my tent, that little 4-foot guy. We haven't talked about that in this episode. I think I mentioned it last time, but you can hear that vocalization. That, I mean, if we were to judge by vocals alone, that sounds demonic, that little guy. But it may be just their way of speaking. I don't know. I have them
uh,
sounding beautiful, normal, like from Ann Arbor, the Haniwa, Awashigewanawa, and Eddie Hop Hoskins, Voice to the East and to the Ospa. Got that on the same footage in the summer around Ann Arbor. Those sounded like human voices. One of
mm,
those, though, is accompanied by the melodic clicking and clucking that we have heard. Witnesses have repeatedly, retold the stories, having heard that kind of stuff. So I don't know. You have to wonder about end times. I'll just throw it out there. Um,
no, without a doubt. And I know we're going to go to Dodge Park. We talked about that before. Dodge Park in Sterling Heights, Michigan, everyone. There's been a recent sighting. Now, whether it was a farce or not, in the conversation on Facebook, out of that conversation, so whether the elderly man had the sighting or not, and some people were, how just the general public makes fun of everything. Out of that, a guy by the name of Wade Somerville spoke up in the comment section, and I contacted him. He said, "Yeah, they're there. I've seen them myself."
mhm,
So I give
mhm.
him credit for having the courage to talk about that, where there was so much banter going back and forth. Even just some cruel words were said. But
Well, that's the general public, right? And
yeah,
I haven't gone to the Detroit News about my work. I've got almost 7 years of audio recordings, and I've been successfully getting them every single year. Most every time I go out, my methods are in keeping with the scientific method, and I repeatedly get these results. And I'm wondering why. I mean, it hasn't been easy. I had to figure a few things out. Like they have a very esoteric, subtle way of communicating, which they do most often, more than the conventional speech that we hear, or even the clicking and clucking. They have a harmonic resonance that they communicate with. It has enunciation and everything. But if you learn to identify the subtle indicators of that resonant vocal modality, you can take that out and look at it later on. What I do is I review audio, I identify suspect footage, make a clip of it, save it, and then review it later and enhance it. Go through minute stages of cleaning up the audio and amplification. But that brings out their vocals so that we can hear them normally. So it's what's hidden beyond the white noise um, that I figured out how to identify and do clarify, identify and clarify. Let's go with that.
Well, I'll tell you right now, James, you would be greatly disappointed in me. This is, I'm always happy go lucky, and you keep that energy going because you want to deliver a product for people who are interested. But on the flip side, I've been kicking myself because I have failed twice. Um, well, I hear the growl today, but I'm out. I don't even, I've been out so much in the woods, interviewing eyewitnesses. This is all in the past 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. So I missed an opportunity to record Samurai Chatter. At least I've
Mm,
heard that now on my
that's
own.
cool. Very
Okay.
cool.
The whole
Yeah.
that type of talking. And then James, which really breaks my heart, is I heard a freight train level loud howl, 3 sections of a howl. And I think this is all since I've talked to you last and your last episode here on the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I
That's
was in my,
interesting.
yeah, I wasn't ready, James. Both times I wasn't ready. I'm concentrating on my, where is it? My thermal camera here that I use so much, which actually doesn't have pick up audio. It does pictures and video, but there's no audio on this. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I dropped the ball. And, this is part of the reason we're here today, James, is right here. I picked up the Zoom H1 Essential audio recorder. I'm looking for the actual device right now. I just had it. It's right in front of me. This pouch here. So I failed. I had an opportunity to record Samurai Chatter and the biggest howl you've ever heard in 3 sections, which sounded
Mm,
very similar to the Sierra Sounds. Huge
awesome.
outside of
Awesome.
one of my overnight campsites with camps with Matthew Sexton.
Hmm.
Matt had passed out. He's a working man. I'm work midnight shift, so I'm staying up all night. And we were busy doing something else. And what's amazing about it, James, as soon as we got in our tents, as soon as I heard Matt pass out and I hear him snoring, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I better get my stuff together, like my recorder. And so you're going to laugh. Are you ready to laugh, James?
Bring it
Everybody at
on.
home is going to shake their heads. I've got my iPhones. I've got 2 of those that I record with, but I also,
Oh, nice. Why not?
I,
Why not, man?
so I
It's
got this.
analog.
I wasn't ready, and I didn't have anything recording yet. But that's what I had brought. But I
Yeah.
also had this thing, and I just haven't learned how to use it yet. So not that we're promoting Zoom. I don't know if they're a good product or not, but
Turn it
that's
on.
what
Put
I've
that.
got.
Yeah, I've got one as well. It is good product. It only my
Okay.
version only records in .wave, which eats up a lot of space, and it doesn't have timers where I could program it to go between X hours. So I got to physically turn it on when I go to bed. It's my camp recorder basically. It's got good. It's excellent. But you can also get results with a $30 unit.
Okay.
The one I got is probably a $350 unit at the time back in the day. But it has its limitations.
Now, does this take? Okay. Does this have any kind of onboard memory, or do I need to put in an SD card? It looks like.
Good question. I'm not familiar with that unit. I would
Okay.
imagine there's at least a micro HD. I would imagine that you would
All right. Thank
have. It
you.
may have even come with one. There you go. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
there
Okay.
you go.
Okay. So
And
now,
my recommendation on recording is to record in the .wave rather than MP3.
okay. So dot wave format,
Yeah,
dot
it's going to eat
wave.
memory, and a lot of people don't do that. Not even David Ellis. I don't think he even does that. But I won't record an MP3 anyway. I spoke to a professor out of Montana, maybe. He was into audio, and he's like, "Listen, nobody's going to take you serious with MP3 audio. You got to have the .wave." I don't know why. I have no idea because the MP3 was working fine by me. But quite
But
honestly,
maybe
when
the
you're doing audio,
professionals.
the quality of the content is noticeably better in the
Okay.
.wave format. You can
Okay.
always save clips in MP3.
Yeah, see, that may be the professionals. Like right now, this has been a progressive walk for me and a large monetary investment.
Mhm.
So I walk this as I go. I've got a ton of like professional podcast equipment over here. I'm looking at it right now that I'm going to get set up this, look at this. Right now, I'm just using my iPhone. Look at this.
Yeah,
I've got professional Shure mics, I think they are. Um, Shure headphones. I've got Zoom PodTrack 4, P4 over there. I've got the Rodecaster Pro over there. So all of this has been a progressive walk and it's all getting implemented because the one thing I do know, that's why I get it when you say use dot wave instead of MP3, is because before I did all this in my early 20s, I was involved in the music industry here in
sure.
Detroit, was about to sign a record deal and all of that. And so I learned from then, whenever possible, use the best equipment you can because
Hmm.
that alone will get you the respect in whatever community. For me, it was the music industry. So my engineer was Aretha Franklin's engineer, guy by the name of Mike Acapelli, you know. So yeah, so I would assume if you're going to submit this to any kind of TV broadcast, these large Hollywood production, which is what I'm looking for. I'm with some people and I've got some connections. I've got to have the best quality I can.
Sure.
And even my show, at first, we've been polishing the Bigfoots of Michigan TV show, trying to polish it because every episode is a pitch session. Every episode is going, okay, here's the general idea of what we can do, knowing that they're going to go, okay, that's nice, but we're bringing in the Screen Actors Guild full film. I've been on set with John Hamm. I did an MGM Detroit commercial, which I made a lot of money off of. And I remember standing there, and there was 200 people standing around me, and boom mics and boom cranes and everything. These large Hollywood productions. That's when you get the respect. But you've got to at least show them that you're making that effort to even, like when you submit a script, it has to be
Hmm.
in the proper script format for the movie making business, or they're not even going to look at it. So you have to at least know what you're doing. I would say A through E, A, B, C, D, E. And then that will get you in the door. They'll gain you the respect. Yeah, it's all about having that criteria and that somewhat quality. So no, I'm with you on the dot wave. Didn't mean
Yeah.
to get into a large
Even
speech.
though I do the
And
dot wave, I still don't know what I'm doing. I mean,
but
there's so much about
but you
audio. Everything I've done, I've taught myself. I mean, you can't. I mean, is really the only option when you endeavor this sort of interesting, fringy sort of subject. Um, so I've had to teach myself. I would love academic and scientific scrutiny on any of my audio. I don't care what
awesome.
it is, even all of it. I mean, so through your connection, your network, please let it be known. I welcome scrutiny on these audio recordings because they're so otherworldly. My mind, Brian, has just been blown time and again at what is revealed on audio when you do your target marketing, right? Target placements of the recorders. You just don't throw a recorder out in the woods at a particular crook in a valley or any bifurcation.
Right.
That's like you got to go to where these things hang out, and they do,
That's it.
and they build that they build cairns, they build teepees, wigwams, and lean-tos, and oftentimes they are built within our suburbs. It's along the watersheds, and really all of our civilization, every civilization is near water. And these beings live within our watersheds, perhaps to execute their job description, to watch us. You
So
know,
with all that said, we're going out, my friend. You're going to educate me. You're going to help train me on all of your knowledge to the point of you're I look at everything and from a filmmaker's point of view. Okay, we need A, B, C, D, and E. I want to go a little bit deeper in 2026. So I'm hoping to hook up with you a handful of times, and
Sure.
you just helped me with tree structures. Yeah, everything you're talking about, because you're hitting the nail on the head. There's something about these creatures that I'm going to lay this out as simply as I can. When they know you're looking for them, you're not going to find anything. But the moment you turn and walk away, or you shift to, okay, I got to go grocery shopping, boom, there they are. There is something about them when you're there and then you turn your back and you're walking away. That's when they chime in. It's a Scott Carpenter thing. He put the camera on his back. That's when he got some information. He got some footage. That's
Yeah.
when it happens. They're
Yeah.
not going to do a face.
His white Bigfoot is an amazing clip. I do believe that a lot of Scott's evidence, if you will, has a pareidolia
Totally
aspect
agree.
to it. Yeah,
Totally agree.
but he has other stuff that I do not believe there's pareidolia involved, and looks very real, like that white-headed subject that he captured with the yellow. It's creepy. It's so creepy.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Brought that up. James, I'm not sure, you were very low on the volume there. So
Oh,
I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. What James had said is he was talking about the pareidolia, and I'm actually going to do a whole episode on that, or I want to,
mhm.
because I'm also getting submissions from people and they're telling me there's a face there. And I can take these digital cameras, the depth perception, the lighting, everything. Now, I know from this location near me, called the Garden of Eden, I know they play off of shadows. Like if they know there's a place there's a shadow, they can go there and sit, and they'll play off of that to help, kind of hide them a little bit, and they have a clear view of you. But there are so many instances where people are saying, "Hey, don't you see the face?" And I'm like, "No." So
Right.
I want to do a soft episode about that, because I don't think that's right either, to walk down the street and hear a dog bark and say, "Oh, that was a Bigfoot growl," or see a shadow in a tree and say, "Oh, that's a Bigfoot. Can't you see it? Can't you see the outline of it?"
Right. Right.
No, because then we're not. You and I, inside this Bigfoot community, we know how to deal with that. No big deal. It's like water off
Well,
of a
we
duck.
did
But the
because
general public,
I've had cases of pareidolia where I'm scratching my head and I'm convinced, I'm looking at this and thinking, and I've shared it with other people, and they're like, "You're crazy." You get that look, right? So I've totally retreated from blurry images unless it's moving. I have a blurry video that, I mean, clearly you can see the subject. The light and shadows, the movement reveals the auricular recess, the ocular recess, the shape of the back, the left arm casting a shadow. When he's captured in my flashlight, cast a shadow on the left buttocks. You can determine all of that through that blurry footage. But on still images, you just can't. And I see it time and again on Facebook and on some very respectable group pages. I think we need to reduce the noise of those still images. Focus on really what can be verifiable. Either if you have a still image, have it before and after, in similar conditions. Don't just give it that image, put a little red circle around it, and expect us to buy into it. I don't even
right?
spend time on that. And even in the woods, a lot of people are out there. I watch other people doing it. Look, and they're questioning, trying to figure out certain structures. That truth is stranger than fiction in many cases. And if you have to think about it, just walk on, move on, move on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's my MO. Now, when you come across an actual teepee, wigwam, lean-to, be it in the depths of the woods or in your neighborhood park, that's something I'm interested in. That
Yes.
really took manipulation and abstract thought to produce, and it has significant meaning. The meaning to me is that these are places where these beings convene or commune. And other than that, I move on. And I just, my trick is just leave a recorder. Sometimes you get the audible
Bingo.
vocal stuff, right? And when you do get audios, you're confirming your initial suspicions. These aren't little wiki-ups, as someone recently commented on one of my videos. It's like, no, I've tested these with audio. I've verified that during the nocturnal hours, there are beings of a different sort of existence, reality, if you will. Brian, forgive me. My Chihuahua is pacing, and I think she needs to go out.
No problem. No, we're
I need
good,
to go out
James.
back just for a second. I'll be right back.
You got it, brother.
Thank you.
So as James takes a break, that is something we're working hard here at Bigfoots of Michigan and the Bigfoots of America podcast show is we are trying to stay legitimate. It is difficult sometimes, even with deadfall or windfall, to discern, okay, was that just a windstorm and maybe it got knocked down some trees and some branches, and then along the line, over a period of years, it's become interwoven. Because some of these things you look at and you go, oh my gosh, that's got to be made by a Bigfoot or by a person or something with hands because, how could that have been so intricate? But then if you throw in the aspect, well, maybe it's been there for 5 years and it just kept adding and adding and adding. And so we are fighting hard. We don't just want to accept everything as, oh, it's a Bigfoot. I don't want to be like that either. So it is difficult when people submit things and you really don't know. But like James is saying, yeah, if you can have the same picture like a before and after, like, okay, the figure's there and then it's not there. Or the figure is there and then the sun changes. And then if that figure disappears, then you know it's not real. But that's why for me, hey, James, welcome back. For me,
Thank you.
I always look for the footprints. So, and now I want James to help teach me. So now if I find the physical evidence of the footprints, which sometimes are very undeniable because some of these places I go, nobody knows I'm going there and they don't know where I'm going, and I'll find these footprints and then I'm totally sold. So now if I can add the audio aspect to the physical presence of footprints and maybe, I do believe I found some legitimate tree structures, but they're only in the areas where I find the footprints are. So I'm trying to connect all those dots. And it's difficult, James. Now we'll talk to you, James. It's difficult for me, and I can kind of vent. When I get these submissions and people want to do an episode, and then I've got to go, okay, I want to do an episode with this person. I feel it's legit, and maybe half of it's legit, but some of the other things they give me, I don't believe in. And then so I have the dilemma of leaving that stuff out of the episode, and then the person might get upset with me. So then I have to go, okay, I have to make those decisions, those hard choices. That's just the way it is as a producer. But I need to call black, black, and white, white. So I guess I'm petitioning everybody out there, be patient because we are trying to sell this product to the general public. And for me, I also believe I'm trying to protect some of my eyewitnesses too from overbearing scrutiny. It gets vicious out there sometimes.
Yeah. And which is another reminder why we really shouldn't take this subject too seriously as I believe the subject deserves attention. We need to maintain our sense of humor and walk at ease in the woods, knowing that we're not going to come up with answers overnight. I've been recording for over 7 years and been researching for 9.5, going through all the phases, the pareidolia phase, the absolute obsessive phase. It was just 6 weeks after I first went into the field, after about 6 months of hyper enthusiasm, which drives people away. I'll tell you that. But when you realize there's a race of giants living within our reach, even in the urban setting. I had a subscriber to my YouTube channel and follower of my work, St. Clair Shores. She told me she saw one in St. Clair Shores. I'm looking. I'm looking at the map, and I follow, the rivers, creeks, and the drainage ditches from the Clinton River, and I'm like, lo and behold, it's possible, and I don't doubt
Yeah.
it. I don't doubt her at all.
Yeah.
We're gonna have time, and I'll learn more about her story. I'd like to know. She said it was along the railroad tracks, but railroad tracks and drainage ditches, they all mix, and they travel them. They really
Oh,
do.
yep, they can hide in those ditches. The big thing that I've learned, and some of these things are just like obvious. After you learn it, you're like, well, that's obvious. But I didn't realize what a big deal it was. The move from winter to springtime until this past year. And what I mean by that is through the winter, their main food source is really only deer and maybe some small critters. They might not have as much of an access to fish. So then suddenly things start thawing out, and these things head for the bodies of water where the fish are at. I believe that's what that recent Monroe monster sighting, with the man and his son, and they were bow
Yeah, along
fishing.
Plum Creek down there. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I
Yeah.
saw some follow up, and yeah, I looked at that area on Google Map. It makes total sense. There's a greenway from where the sighting was down to Plum Creek, I bet dollars of donuts you'll be able to find some sort of physical artifact left behind in that greater green space off Plum Creek. I don't know if anybody's done that. I know that a lot of people who see what I see and even publish doubt it. These structures. They say they're parks actually have debris shelter. Little uh, symposiums, I guess, for kids. Because we see these things in the woods. I'm certain the Park Service knows about these. I was in Richfield, Minnesota. Just like it's like an urban suburb of Minneapolis. My sister-in-law, who's special needs, she lives in an adult foster home that's right on the border of this nature preserve. I've always wanted to go and check it out. So not 100 yards into this nature preserve, I start finding structures, and there's a sign on one of them saying, "This is a classroom. Do not add or take away from any of this." And its construction, quite honestly, is far more sophisticated than your average Parks and Rec employee has the ability to make. So that's where I had
Interesting.
some very successful. And I reached out to Doug Hychek and I said, "This is right in your own backyard." He lives in Minneapolis somewhere. So this week, as a matter of fact, Doug's committed to go back there and have a look at it. It was last week that I shared the audio. He sent it off to David Ellis, and he got it within like 3 or 4 minutes. Doug's like, "Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, I mean, you got it." And
Fantastic.
I not that I need that affirmation, quite honestly. Uh, I know what I got, and it's because I recorded in these very specific places where these interesting, intricate structures are placed. And these, to me, simplify or signify just communal spaces where the youth and the elders protecting them uh, commune. They just kind of hang out. You can hear them speak sometimes. It's not often. Most of the time, it's episodic and it's that harmonic resonant, quieter than the general din of their surroundings. They speak at that level, but you can identify it. Identify it, no
Awesome.
doubt.
Yeah, I can't wait to go out with you because I need, after this Alpina trip and then going, okay, yeah, I see the difference. I want to go out with a guy like you who's had experiences with tree structures as well and see some of what you're talking about because you never stop learning. And so I want to be more educated and calling out stuff like, yeah, I think that was made by Sasquatch, or no, that's 5 years of deadfall. It's probably started with this
Right,
one, then that one, then this one,
right.
and it looks really intricate, but it's just deadfall 5 years into it.
Yeah,
So yeah, I want to go out with you because some of the stuff I saw with this guy Chad Skolton, up in Alpena, I'm like, oh, holy crap. Yeah, there's a difference here. It really sinks in.
Yeah, I'd love to have chat with them because I've had a few experiences in Alpena. I used to hunt up there, and we had a cabin slap on the side of the cabin. Remember that distinctly. I had something walk up to me behind a blind I was in. I couldn't move. I was not necessarily terrified or petrified. I was petrified. I remember not being able to move, even though I wanted to. I really wanted to see what was sniffing at the back. I thought it was one of the guys walking up on me, and then
Wow.
sniff, sniff, and then a couple steps, and then nothing after that.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
down
this
in
was
that
in
same
the
home, another time I witnessed one looking over a log that was across the power lines, and just looking at me. And I was looking at it, had no horns, no ears whatsoever. It was just a head shape, top of a head shape. And I've got to grab the old girl out back. I'll be right back.
Oh, do it, brother. Do it, brother. Yeah, so everybody out there, he's taking a little break again. Got to get his little dog back in. We appreciate you tuning into this. We appreciate you being patient with us. We're looking to get that real information. I'm looking to learn more about tree structures. I'm looking to learn how to use, this Zoom audio recorder better. Yeah, so this is a progressive walk and it takes a long time. Yeah, I'm 3 years into this now, and you never stop learning. Yeah, boy. But yeah, if you look up what I was gonna say, James, is look up Thunder Bay River. And where's
Mm-hmm.
my phone at? Let me see if I've got it on
Caught
this.
a
But the Thunder
beautiful
Bay River,
6-pound brown trout in that
it,
river.
oh, good. So you know the area. Yeah. So we're in the backwaters there. And like I said, the cabin had been sitting for 10, 12 years vacant. And so I think everything made sense to me. Some people call you out and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess that could have been a deer. Or, you're trying to you're not trying to discredit the eyewitness, but in your own mind, you're trying to say, well, it could have been this or it could have been that. Yeah, this was one of those deals where you go, okay, a lot of things are adding up here. And yeah, so that whole Thunder Bay, looking to see if I had a picture of it. Thunder Bay area. Oh yeah, yeah. Gosh, I was out on an old pontoon boat. He had a second level. I got up there with my camera, got some great B-roll. But man, what a great location. So yeah, the Thunder Bay River, just outside of Alpena, Michigan. Everybody at home, check that out.
Yeah, in that
Um,
area between Alpena and you work your way up along the shoreline up to Sheboygan, all that area is very dense in woods, and it's got the rivers. And I'm certain there's, the free roam of many of these beings out
and with
there.
that said, what you just said, I was just thinking of it. Um, to me, the new shock is not that these things exist, it's how many of these things there
No,
are.
yeah,
If you could so if you could put a population number on it for Michigan, um, what would your thoughts be? I'm going to let you talk. What are your thoughts about the
I
possible population in Michigan could be?
I would say the probable population is in the thousands, no doubt about it. Because I've been you my method. I've been doing this for a number of years now, and I usually get results. I cannot possibly be that lucky if there were, say, like 200 in the state of Michigan. I once
Amen.
hired Cliff Barrickman. It was the first time I had an opportunity to air my earlier audio captures, and this is back in 2019, or maybe it was, no, it has to be 2019. I hired Cliff because he was up at the oh, what's that
Oh,
stop?
Osco to Bigfoot
Big,
Bash?
no, it was earlier than that. It was the West Branch.
Oh, yeah,
There
yeah,
was a company.
yes.
Anyway, yeah, he was there. So anyway, I got him from what's his name? Forgive me for a good man. Uh, I can't think of his name right. He has since deceased, but I met him up
Yes,
at
yes.
Great Lakes Crossing and picked up Cliff and brought him down here at a local brewery, which is like a block and a half from my house. It was great. And yeah, we had some good beers. Good man. He's a big hugger. I disagree with him on a variety of things. But he has, especially in one of those things would be the population. He estimated around 200 in Michigan. And I'm thinking there are probably 200 in a single county in the UP alone, by my estimation. Like I said, I'm not that smart, but I figured out where they hang out, and I could not be so lucky if their numbers were few.
I
I would
totally
not
agree
be
with
at
it.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James,
So,
I would in the thumb alone because now I'm really everything
shh.
I've been doing here, a lot of it's been in the thumb. I've got a number of right around 50, maybe 100, maybe even 200 in the thumb alone. And that sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but it's
Uh,
like, it's what you said. How can I just get that lucky? And now I know the eyewitnesses are pointing me in the right direction. And with that said, thank you, all you eyewitnesses. And there's a lot of you. Um, Amazingly in the thumb of Michigan alone, and half of what
mhm.
I've shown, half of the eyewitnesses don't want their name out there. So
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
off of the top of my head, it's a definite 50. But then I'm like, man, if they're running in family groups and clans, I've got 3 clans right now, right along on the Black River. I
I don't
don't know
doubt
how
it.
many's in the clan. I have found one. Okay, I've got four. In the 2 clans alone, I've got anywhere between 6 and 8 separate sets of footprints I've found.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and then when I've got a family of 4 and a human family describing their Sasquatch, they're talking about, 4 members of a human family saw 3 different Sasquatch on their own, whatever, 10 acres.
Yeah. And those are probably the oopsie sightings, right? Those sightings that were not
Oh,
intended by the Sabe people, if you will.
exactly. Well, it's just like the chat sighting. You got a vacant old farm that's been sitting there for 10 years, and then somebody buys it to fix it up, and the Sasquatch thinks no one's there for the past 10 years, and they go walking through,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
human's like, what the heck am I seeing? Yeah, so
Yeah. Pretty much.
that's, yep,
That's how it goes.
absolutely
They
correct.
are everywhere. And if you I mean, look at our presence. We know where we are. We go on Google Earth and we zoom in. There's so much green out there. And we're simply distributed along minute veins, highways, roads. Uh, that's our distribution. Their distribution you're going to find is probably stronger or resembles ours most likely or easily. Uh, with their distribution on the rivers and streams and drainage ditches, any mode of travel. Sometimes you and I should go to Mount Clemens, and I can show you an area there along the Clinton River, not far from the hospital, that I found structure. And there's also an access to the storm drainages at this particular area. And someone had painted a mural around it like it was the mouth of a big monster, and the monster kind of had a human. It's as if someone is aware of these beings' presence in this particular area. It's a
Let's
spot
do it
you would
because
never
I know.
know.
No, let's do it because I know of 2 clans north of there in New Haven. So
Okay,
let's do, all we got to do is when we get done with the show here in a minute, let's lock down a date and get that figured out.
right on.
Um, my goodness, brother.
Yeah,
Anything else
yeah, by your
you'd like to
calendar.
talk about?
Oh my God, there's so much I'd like to talk about.
Well, we're gonna keep.
Well, there are
Yeah,
two
I mean,
pieces I want to share with your audience if they're not familiar with my work. It's Michigan Aboriginal Project on Facebook. I don't talk about the Facebook group too often. As a matter of fact, I don't feed the algorithm neither on Facebook nor on YouTube. I'm not a sensationalist, so anybody interested in my work, get past that. I know I'm an unusual personality, so if you can just see past that, please. I am quirky. I get it, but I know what I know, and I'm only going to speak what I know. And this, I'm telling you, this has been one of the greatest adventures of my life. It has been perhaps the singular greatest event, other than that of God. I have to say that is bigger. This is just gravy on top of my God journey. Realizing the whole God thing is real, and then realizing there's, then a tribe of giant beings that may or may not be, supernatural, that may or may not have a direct link to, the one most high. It's a big mystery. I'm insatiably curious. I am determined to. Well, I need to satisfy that curiosity. Otherwise, I'm going to atrophy. My brain needs exercise on both sides of it. It needs stimulation. If I'm not getting that stimulation, I'm going to wither away and die. I mentioned perhaps I was an empty shell of a man that I once was. I mean, that would happen to me again. It just offers so much for the curious kid in you. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. So I could go on and on about that. I mean, and go to the creek I played in as a kid. That I found sign there in this little journey. I never realized that I'd have someone reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I saw one in St. Clair Shores."
Wow.
Yeah, and that I'm gonna have coffee with Jenny and see where that goes. But see specifically where maybe I'll do a piece on that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So anybody
Yeah.
interested in my work, just please deal with the fact that I'm not that motivated to be so sensationalistic to attract the masses. If you're truly interested in some very esoteric and lesser known information or knowledge about this phenomenon, please scour my YouTube channel, explore my journey. You'll see things there. You'll see how I progressed through this. But now I'm trying to focus a little more on the activities that took me to the woods in the first place, my fishing, my photography, because I've pretty much refined this process down to a very simplified method where I can, on my way to the campsite, I can stop at my few locations, drop a recorder, and go about my business. And you're going to attract more of these experiences and these beings' attention if you're doing your own thing and just being interesting in the woods and respectful in the woods. You don't want to be a dingbat out there because they'll let you know in a heartbeat if you've crossed cross a border in their minds. And this is not a subject to really trifle. If you want to see one, go for it. But realize you may be scared right out of the woods for the rest of your life. I went through a divorce and a custody battle in Wayne County, right? So I'm used to monsters and the madness that goes along with that. I've wanted to be dead, I've had, I don't care anymore about what other people think about the Bigfoot thing or my relationship with Jesus or God, because it's all very real. And I will talk about it to the nth degree because it's significant. And it's a reminder to me that the writings of the biblical text, the ancient texts, the apocryphal texts are relevant even today in our lives. And who could ask for a greater adventure than that? It's quite an epiphany that number one, that this is real, and number two, that it's so close to home. You don't have to live in the woods. You don't have to live, too far from town to have an encounter, or to explore areas where they commune, which is what I get my kicks and giggles from, But I have to keep a measured distance from it because it can drive you crazy, and it does take away from this obsession can take away from your relationship with others. And when you need to be aware of that. If anybody's wants to do what I've done, you need to be aware of it and do a better job than I have in keeping a balance. I got the balance back. My wife, who thought I was crazy and almost left me when we were engaged because of this enthusiasm, but I knew it was real, and it, for me, it's very satisfying from an adventurous kid's perspective. I mean, we got this one life to live in this physical plane. Make the most of it. And this is one area of study that offers so much for anybody that needs both sides of their brain tickled on a regular basis. I'm sorry if I'm speaking softly. Again, I apologize to your audience. I'm a soft talker.
It's all good. It's
I
all
really
good.
don't talk to a lot
We'll
of
check
people
out the
throughout
levels
day.
and we'll check out the levels and do some boosting if we need it. I appreciate your candor.
Sorry for the extra work.
Nah, you're good, man. I appreciate your honesty. Like you, so much of this for me had been reconciling the existence of these creatures to my Christian faith, how that all worked out. And so I appreciate you being honest about all of that. So, yeah, everybody at home, I'm going to go ahead and put James backstage right now. James, I'll be there in a moment.
Right. Peace be with y'all. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, James Lady, check him out. Facebook, Michigan Aboriginal Project. I've heard his stuff. So I got to say this right now about James Lady and his material. It's the real. It is tough in this business to discern between the pareidolia, between the shadows, between, okay, what was that sound? But dig into James. He's got the nitty gritty. He's got the tangible evidence, and that's why I'm getting to know him better, man. I'm getting his tutoring. I'm gonna get out in the field, learn how to use my audio equipment correctly, learn about his wisdom and knowledge on this subject. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. And we're going to end this right now. Yeah. And we will see you next time.